In this video, we'll be going over Form SSA 8011F3. This is the Statement of Household Expenses and Contributions. Odds are pretty unlikely that you'll be asked to download this form from the SSA website. Generally what happens is this form, which is used to document household expenses in the case of a Social Security claimant, it's probably going to be more likely that you either complete this form in a local Social Security office as part of a field interview. You may be asked to take this form home with certain parts annotated by the Social Security Administration representative in case you don't have enough documentation at your in-person meeting or during your telephone interview. But you won't be able to find this form on the Social Security website. This is a very dated version of this form. I think the most recent version that I could find online, which dates to 2007. So what we're going to do is kind of go over this form as if maybe you received a blank copy of it. What's more likely to happen is that you'll see these check marks, and one or more of these check marks may be completed or may be indicated that you need to go back and complete this. So there are 4 parts to this Social Security form. Part 1 has to do with monthly household expenses. And then part 2 is relates to contributions to those expenses. And then part 3 is other arrangements that you may have. And then part 4 is remarks to kind of explain anything that's out of the ordinary. So the big question would be, why do you need to complete this form? Well, so the Social Security Administration has certain provisions. So for people that are claiming benefits, particularly supplemental security income, those benefits are intended to help offset household expenses. So if you're a recipient living in your own house, you're responsible for all of your expenses. So that's not usually an issue. But if the Social Security Administration has records or indications that you may be living with someone else, then the expectation is that you're paying your fair share of monthly household expenses for the entire household. For example, if there are 5 adults living in a house, the assumption would be that for most of the common expenses, that are required for operating the house, each person would most likely be responsible for 1/5 of the total household expenses. And if a Social Security recipient is not contributing his or her fair share of those household expenses, then the Social Security Administration may impose what's known as a 1/3 reduction provision, which basically states if your Social Security benefits are not required for maintaining a household, then we're going to reduce your benefit by 1/3. So this isn't a form that tells you whether or not you're going to get that treatment. This simply may be part of the supporting documentation that you may be asked to provide so that the Social Security Administration can have proper documentation in place to indicate that, yes, you are paying your fair share, no, you're not, or maybe you're in a situation where that 1/3 reduction provision doesn't exactly matter. So, for example, if you live with someone but you pay for all of your own food, then that provision's not going to apply to you. If you eat at someone's house but you live on your own, then that probably won't won't apply to you. What the focus really would be is if you're completely dependent and living with a household and all of your expenses are in that household, but you're not paying your fair share, you're not contributing anything at all, or you're only making a token contribution, uh, every once in a while, then that really doesn't meet the intention of your benefits. So again, this isn't the form where you'll find out whether or not you pass or fail. This is simply an information gathering tool that will help the Social Security Administration kind of make a determination. So the reason we're covering this Social Security form is because this was specifically requested on the YouTube channel. So thank you very much. And we'll go ahead and start with the top. So at the top of the form, the instructions really don't give much guidance. They basically say, hey, put the claimant or the beneficiary's name at the top. In this case, we'll go with the story that John Doe is completing this form on behalf of his father, George Doe, who is a Social Security recipient and this lives with John and his wife and his family. So we're going to kind of walk through this as if, John is trying to provide supporting documentation that George is indeed paying his fair share. So some or all of this may already be completed for you if the Social Security employee gives it to you. We're just kind of going through this as if we're starting with a blank sheet of paper. So Social Security number. Now the SSA does have some guidance for the employees. It says do not put the entire Social Security number. And that's namely because they're going to use this to largely make entries into the Social Security kind of system. So they have access to the system that's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. It archives the records. It has all of the rules and regulations uploaded into it. So this would be an intake form. And if that person is taking this information, the Social Security Administration guidelines say that they should destroy this after they've created maybe a PDF file or some sort of an image that they can archive in their system, but the hard copy will get destroyed. So just as a backstop, they also say that they should not have the complete Social Security number. If this is up to you to fill, I would definitely ask this question about whether or not you should put anything in this field. So if you are completing this form on behalf of maybe an eligible child or a spouse who is not able to complete this form on his or her own, you would put that person's spouse or their parents. If that person is like, if this were baby George Doe, then you would put one of George Doe's parents here. So since this is George Doe's son making this, we're going to go ahead and put this down here. Now, the Social Security Administration may tell you to put the adult child of that individual. I am not sure. I was not able to find the guidance online for that. So let's go ahead and hit part one. If you need to fill out this part, they will probably have checked this. I did not put checks in here because this form does not have any fields. I had to actually create fields for all of this data entry. So the Social Security Administration has basically fixed and variable expenses that you are asked to provide a monthly amount for. So if they're fixed expenses, say you're paying rent, that's pretty straightforward. If they are variable, then they may ask you to calculate an average of those expenses. There's a lot of guidance in the operations manual about how they may do this. So we're going to take a swing and say if you have a month of living history, then they may, an entire year of living history, they may ask you to average that out. So in this case, for the entire calendar year of 2023, average out, the variable expenses like food and groceries, certain utilities, things that don't have a fixed dollar amount. Or they may say for those things that have a fixed dollar amount from month to month, like your rent, then put the amount based on a certain month. And of course, if there's an item or one or more items that do not apply, then you can always enter 0. So, for example, let's just say that the Doe household enters, say we purchase $500 worth of food every month. This doesn't include food bought with food stamps or public benefits or anything like that. So you would put that in there after you've done the calculation. If your calculation, changes and you end up having to put in 450, just make sure that you have an accurate figure based on the guidance they gave you up here. For your rent, again, a straightforward, just flat dollar amount. But let's imagine that this is a mortgage payment. So for people paying a mortgage, the mortgage usually covers not only the principal and interest, but also the taxes, the real estate taxes, as well as the insurance. So you can break them out separately here, or you're going to put the entire mortgage payment here, and then what you should always follow the guidance of the representative. But if you're doing this on your own, or if that person isn't able to help you, then you may consider just making sure that you document here exactly the right dollar amount, and then you're not double reporting. So if this $1,500 includes the insurance, then you should put 0 here, and same with this. But whatever your documentation is, it may behoove you to go to the remarks section and actually kind of annotate exactly how you reported it in part 1, just to make sure that there's no confusion. Now, if you're doing this with an interview, the representative is probably taking notes, and you may not need to do that. So with all of these, you would most likely average out the utilities, unless you're on some sort of a budgeted plan. There are a lot of utility companies that may kind of calculate your average usage once per year and then put you on a payment plan. So if that's available, or if you're participating in that, then you would use your monthly payment amount. If not, then you may need to average it out based on the guidance from above. So let's go ahead and kind of put in some numbers here. This is just kind of an estimate. Let's just say that we don't have any heating or oil, but let's say that we get down to the water bill, and you live in a place where water also covers the sewage and the garbage disposal. Again, make sure that you don't double bill yourself. If you're going to put expenses here, and you know that this covers the sewage and the garbage, then annotate that properly. You can say something like, water bill includes sewage, maybe parentheses line 9. Here, I'll actually write that. So whatever your explanation in the remarks section, it should be very clear to the person that's putting this information into the system, where these numbers are coming from, and that if there's any zeros, or if like, it should be very clear that you are taking steps to avoid double reporting an expense in more than one line. And then in part 2, we'll kind of outline how George's monthly contributions may look. So what you may consider is just kind of forgive me for a moment. I'm trying to get this field up here. There we go. So what you may do is just say, hey, your total expenses appear to be 500, 900, 950, like close to $2,500. So let's just say that George Doe gives an average amount of $1,000 per month, right? It can either be an average, in case there's like not really a formal relationship, or it could be over here and it just says, hey, I gave $5,000 in a certain time period, whatever the case may be. Just make sure that, again, it's clear from what you enter here, to the person that is inputting this information, that you're either giving an average monthly amount during the same time frame. For example, if I were processing this form, I would indicate that this, was, for the same period of time, the average period of time that was previously reported. So if the time frame up there was from January to December of 2023, and that was the period of time that George Doe was living with the family, then I would take extra steps to make sure that we're writing, January 2023. There we go. So now this person processing the form can take a look at this and they don't have to make any translations. It clearly states that, as of December 2023, the fixed payments are current, and then all of this is an average over the cost over the year. And again, we had 500, 950, call it 2450 in monthly household expenses. George Doe contributes $1,000 a month, and then they have the information to develop this case so that they can make a determination as to whether or not George Doe is paying his fair share. My guess, and this is not with access to any of the inside systems, but if he is one of 4 people living in the house, for example, and it's John and Mary Doe, their daughter, and then George Doe, it would kind of at least pass the initial sniff test that $1,000, the entire family household is, $2,500. So it appears that he's paying his fair share. That's not for us to decide in this form. It's not for us to decide at all, but this is how you would make sure that you're reporting so that you're limiting the follow-up questions and any uncertainty. You're making this very clear for whoever is processing this form that these are real numbers, they're current, they're accurate, and then this is an accurate representation, and then they can process this in the system however that system works. So if there are other arrangements, then they may ask you to complete part 3. For example, does George eat? So does George, these are all items that may or may not trigger the 1/3 reduction provision. So for example, if George isn't paying his fair share up here, then there may be some sort of extenuating circumstance. For example, if he ends up eating all of his meals somewhere else, then maybe the Social Security Administration will redetermine the calculations. Probably, I believe from my quick read of the manual, is if this person does not receive all of their meals and all of their lodging at the same place, then technically the 1/3 provision may not apply. So if he lives with the Does, but then he's eating all of his meals out, then he may not be triggering that 1/3 provision. If George Doe is responsible for all of his food and he's buying it with his money, then again, that kind of shows he's contributing. He's not part of the monthly household expenses because his expenses are cared for separately by the fact that he's buying his own food. Does he pay a certain amount for food? Then this is where you kind of break this down to see, which people, are paying towards the community grocery benefits or, food costs. And then same thing for household shelter expenses, right? The intention would be, let's see all of the information. If the mortgage is, say, $2,000 a month and George Doe pays $1,000, that might pass the sniff test. But if he's paying $50 a month, maybe not. So all of these different other arrangements, the Social Security Administration is going to request information that you can report here. And then you would also use the Part 4 remarks to kind of explain additional stuff. So, for example, you would enter the total amount of household expenses here, which I believe was $19.50. And then you would put any explanatory remarks here. You would use that space and any other documentation that they give you to make sure that the SSA has a complete understanding of all of those arrangements so that they can make a determination. Again, there's no real way that you can kind of game the system here. I think this is just kind of a honest reporting of your household expenses. If you read our article, you can see certain scenarios in which the 1/3 provision may apply and when it may not apply. We have links to further references on the Social Security website, just in case you have follow-up on details specific to your situation. So you can, go off the article and actually go to the reference form. And then you would sign here as the applicant, as the person providing the information, sign it, date it, include a telephone number. And then if you sign with a mark, which according to the Social Security Administration is still a legal signature, then you would need to have 2 witnesses that know who you are or have verified your identity. They would sign, enter their full address here at the bottom of the form. So again, odds are pretty likely that if you're requested to provide this information, it may be the Social Security Administration employee that's actually completing this form and then using the information to enter this into their system. But they may ask you to sign the form just so that they can archive this information and upload it into their system. So, we do go into a little bit more detail in our article. You can find that on our website. Simply go to teachmepersonalfinance.com, type in form SSA 8011-F3, and you'll see our article up here. If you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. And if you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions or comments, or if there's something that you would like to see covered in an upcoming video, hit me up in the comments section. Thank you very much and have a great day.